Welcome to this week's edition of the Dakota Angler 2-Minute Fishing Report. Well, folks, as I'm recording this report, honestly, the weather is definitely changing again, and it's going to feel a lot colder out there. In some areas later on this week, going to get down below freezing, so it's almost going to start to feel like winter. If the snow was flying, it'd probably be a different story, but we definitely put up with a lot of wind over this past week. Over the weekend, it wasn't too bad. It kind of laid up a little bit in some areas, and some people were able to get out. But a lot of people now are really going after that South Dakota Gold, in other words, the yellow perch. And, some people are finding them, some people aren't, but the mission continues, to say the least. As far as the walleye bite is concerned, the lakes that produced walleyes this past week up in the Northeast include Bitter, Waubay, Indian Springs, Pius, Opitz, Midland, Big Stone, Dry Lake by Clark, as well as Goose. Down in the southeastern part of the state, the lakes that produce walleyes continue to be the main ones. Dry Lake by Willow Lake, and the biggest problem there is the crowds, quite honestly, and the parking spaces. Thompson, Ponson picking up a few there, as well as Sinai, 81 Ponds, Whitewood, Island, also a few at Beaver and Twin. And now also keep in mind, as dry as we've been, the ramps are getting kind of tough to navigate, to say the least. So Whitewood is a prime example of that. Island is also another example of that, so be careful, especially down the southeastern part of the state. What are you guys doing to catch the walleyes around the area? Really, more and more guys are throwing the swim baits right now, the bigger baits, a 4-inch swim bait. Some people are even throwing 5-inch and having quite a bit of luck. Quite a few nice walleyes have been brought in, also been caught this past week using the larger swim baits. Other people are throwing artificial frogs. This is the time of the year where the walleyes are putting on the feed bag, so keep that in mind. Other people are still using bottom bouncers and slow death and finding those more active fish. Other people are pulling crankbaits, but also more and more people are starting to throw them into the shallows, and that's the thing to keep in mind. This time of year, especially late in the afternoon and evening, hit the shallows. That's the main thing to keep in mind. As far as the perch bite is concerned around the area, and that's where everyone's kind of navigating, there's been only a few lakes that have had a real consistent perch bite, and that's Big Stone as well as Dry Lake by Willow Lake. And they have attracted the crowds, to say the least. Other lakes include Pius, Stink, Waubay, Bitter, also Dry Lake by Clark, and then also Ponson. Thompson's been producing a few. Whitewood, Sinai, 81 Ponds, and a few at Island. And as I mentioned, be careful of the boat launch at Island. What are people doing to catch the perch? Nothing really special at this point in time. A lot of drop chain lures like the Haley, the Pilkey, also the drop chain Castmasters. The clam pinhead minnow, the Wonderbread color, especially the white or the chartreuse Wonderbread, has been working well. The shiny heinies, we haven't talked about them, but they've been doing really well. And then, live bait underneath the bobber, such as small minnows, maggots, as well as waxworms. But then also some people are using some plastics this past week, and that has triggered a few bites. So, again, you might want to think about having a few plastics in the arsenal this upcoming week. In this week's edition of Todd's Tackle Tips, we're going to talk about the Dakota Angler Ice Institute. The reason why? Well, the weather says it outside right now. It feels a lot like winter. And honestly, we're only about 30 or so days away from the first night of the Institute. The Ice Institute is the second largest ice fishing show in the nation. It is the fastest growing ice fishing show in the nation. And it's right here in our backyard, here at Sioux Falls, at the Sioux Falls Arena and Convention Center, November 11th through the 13th. Folks, if you haven't been there, now is the time to come. And this is the biggest and best show that we've ever had. More and more vendors want to be a part of this fast-growing show because they know that it's not being put on by a promoter. It's being put on by us, a mom-and-pop bait shop. Myself and my family members are the only ones that really put this show on. And so your support is greatly appreciated, not only by myself, but my entire family. And it's a great way to kick off the ice fishing season. It's a great way to take advantage of some great, fantastic sales across the arena and convention center. From the main vendors that we've talked about before, the main ice shack and auger vendors and companies, but also some mom and pop shops that you don't always see in bait shops. Their tackle that's going to be available to you in the arena is going to be something that you may not see throughout the entire year. So make sure you make a point of it to stop by the Sioux Falls Arena Convention Center November 11th through the 13th. $7 at the door or a weekend pass for $15. We'll talk more about that as we come up in the next couple of weeks. But again, mark your calendars for November 11th through the 13th. And if you have any questions concerning the Ice Institute, give us a call at 605-336-9132. We'll see you there. And now it's time to take a look at a few photos that you sent in to me this past week. And remember, folks, if you'd like your photo included in next week's version of the report, please send it to me. Send it to todd@dakotaangler.com or post it to our Facebook wall. And folks, before we end this week's report, I always encourage people to do the good things to help one another out. Also, we can do things to help the environment, to say the least. So I always tell people, leave the boat landing, leave the lakes better than what you found it. So if you see any trash laying around, please pick it up and then dispose of it properly. The more we can do, the better off the lakes and the environment will be. And honestly, it will make our experience that much better. So keep that in mind. Leave it better than what you found it. Well, folks, that's this week's version of the 2-Minute Fishing Report for Dakota Angler. I'm the owner, Todd Heitkamp, and as we say around here, fish on! We'll see you next week. And again, thanks for watching. Stay healthy, stay safe, and folks, keep on watching.